morning, everybody, and welcome to the Circuit 13 Advisory Board for Juvenile Justice. Friday, May 16th, 2025. We'd like to go ahead and start with roll call. Madam Secretary, if you please.
Absolutely. Travis Coy.
Present.
Thank you. And Tina Mobley.
Present.
I know Gina Justice is not here.
Judy Royston for Gina Justice.
Thank you. Beth Pasick. Here. Captain Michael Kutner.
Present.
Lieutenant Robin Polk.
Present.
The Honorable Donna Cameron Cepeda. Chrissy Dorian.
Present.
Conchita Canty-Jones. Dimesha Josella. Pastor Alfred Johnson. Reverend Dr. Glenn Dames, Jr. Thank you. Clara Reynolds, here. Markeisha Thomas. Sarah Grimming.
Present.
Rob Parkinson.
Here.
Kimberly Williams.
Here.
I believe we have quorum.
Madam Secretary, I did want to put it on record that the following members are excused from today's advisory board, and that is, excuse me here, Conchita Canty-Jones
Thank you.
and Gina Justice.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have quorum. If you would all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I believe everyone has received the agenda for this morning. I would like to present a motion for approval of today's agenda.
I'll move to accept the minutes as written.
Agenda adopted. Moving on to our next order of business. Attached in your packets are the review of the minutes from our prior Circuit Advisory Board. If everybody's had a chance or would like to take a moment to review said minutes. Motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second Rob Parkinson.
Noted. Thank you very much. Moving on to our standing order of business. Is there any unfinished business for discussion today? I'm also going to defer to Vice Chair Parkinson. I do not recall that we have.
I think the biggest issues are the data-driven subcommittee, which is later on in the agenda.
Yes, sir.
So.
Moving on to member updates. Well, the Department of Juvenile Justice, that would be myself, Chief Kelly Hammersley. So the updates that I will be presenting today, naturally, are the information on youth that are currently involved with the department in Circuit 13, Hillsborough County. So to give you some data, numbers more or less. We have 199 youth that are currently active on some form of Department of Juvenile Justice supervision. That would be probation, post-commitment, or conditional release. Likewise, I don't see that anybody here is from our Hillsborough County Regional Detention Center, but speaking on behalf of the Superintendent of Detention, we currently have 68 youth that are in secure detention. Doing a deeper dive, I've been able to assess that 18 of those youth are being held to assist other circuits. So they're not necessarily Hillsborough County youth on detention or committed out of Hillsborough County. That's to assist in the overflows for the other detention centers. Currently on supervised release, we have a total of 31 youth. 5 of those youth are designated supervision of the evening reporting center. And lastly, we have 18 youth that are on electronic monitoring, whether it's a form of supervised release or probation. I would also like to provide information to our advisory board as far as some items to share. So currently, the Department of Juvenile Justice, per Florida statute, is required to provide a gun prevention course. We have since then, under the leadership of the Department's Talent, Leadership, and Culture branch, developed the DJJ Impact of Gun Violence class. What that is that's a class that is facilitated by a DJJ individual, probation officer, that has been trained to facilitate this particular class. It is designed to be interactive with the youth, and it is in person. There's videos that are shown, there's questions that are asked. It's a 4-hour course, and currently this is only for youth that have received a withhold of adjudication or an adjudication of delinquency and placed on probation, post-commitment probation, or a term of conditional release. That is the only, that is the requirements in order to participate in this class. As I said, it's a 4-hour class. It's catered to have at the maximum 10 youth in a class setting. It's completed, we're doing it on a weekly basis, late in the afternoons to where teens can be available. We'll look at changing that around during the summer session when school is out, because we'll have more access and the children will have more availability to attend these. So these are completed at our service centers. At this particular point, we've had a few of the classes, and once the child completes the course, they will receive documentation of completion of that course, and then we're duly notating that as far as completion of one of the requirements or sanctions. This is not the same as what Safe and Sound, the Evening Reporting Center, uses for their youth gun offender program. That's from Safe and Sound. Their focus is on prevention. This is entirely separate. So I just want to make sure that everybody had understood the clarification between the two. So we're focused, DJJ's on the probation side of youth. And lastly, DJJ has a Restoring Hope Training Summit that will be happening in Orlando, December 16th and 17th. Information about this is posted on the DJJ public website under the prevention branch. So there's more information about that if anybody's interested in attending or enrolling to attend. It is going to be held at, I believe, the Rosen Centra Hotel. So those are my updates as far as probation at this particular point in time. Does anybody have any questions for myself? Thank you.
Just a quick question. Back to your comments about the Safe and Sound Gun Violence Initiative versus the class that DJJ is now teaching. Has there been any discussion about if there's any crossover or to make sure that they're dovetailing together correctly?
No.
No.
What I do know is that this is the only course that DJJ is authorizing for pursuant to the statute for the youth to receive the credit for. Because there may be multiple prevention courses out there in each county and entity, but this is the sole.
And I guess the next question is, are they going to ever make the training modules open to the public so they can see what it is and what it's teaching?
I do not have an answer for that at this particular point in time. I think part of it is to have that one-on-one to where children, youth don't have opportunities or whatever to rehearse, to have, to be very knowledgeable about what's going to be expected of them, to where they don't choose to be that involved or interactive, because there is good conversations. So that's where we really like to have that focus, like you're coming into, and I've had an opportunity to sit and observe and all that with the facilitator. And this one of the classes only had 3 young people, but it allowed them to actually feel comfortable, let their guard down a little bit, and have some good dialogue about their impact.
No, I think that's great, and I think it's great that we've made a consistent training available across the state, because that's always been a challenge. But I want to make sure that our safe and sound people are reinforcing what's been taught in the program that DJJ is teaching versus doing something completely opposite.
Right. And ours is a short-term program, as I said, it's 4 hours. It can be completed in 3 hours, a 3-hour session. We can do it in two 2-hour sessions, or if there's a smaller class, we can actually complete it in a whole afternoon, because minimal interaction with 2 or 3 kids as opposed to 10. So that time issue. But Safe and Sounds, their program is, I believe, 6 months. So there's a definite time frame between the two programs.
If I could also add, Jeff Kane, Character GPS, we were commissioned by the DJJ to create a guns and gang awareness module that's been incorporated into our Character GPS program that we provide to all of our students participating in our prevention program.
And can you repeat the name of the name of the funding for the program, because I'm still catching up on some things that have happened within the last week.
So this is a guns and gang awareness module?
Guns and gang awareness.
And that's part of your Character GPS curriculum.
Right.
So again, this is all great that we're all doing these things. I just want to make sure we're all swimming in the same direction.
And we'd love to sit in on the 4-hour class and compare notes.
I appreciate that. Currently, it's just for the DJJ trained facilitators and the youth per se. Even as far as a probation officer that may be in there, they are required to be interactive too, not just to provide safety and sight and sound. You're not just going to be there sitting as a guard, more or less. You've got to be interactive participation. The parents and family members are not part of the conversation. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to prevention. I was advised that the department's prevention representative would not be present today. And I do not have any items to speak on behalf of that part of DJJ branch. Superintendent Britton, I do not see him present today, and I did previously provide the detention status of the youth that are in secure detention. Yes, sir.
Just for prevention, just to let everyone know, we were awarded a new grant for providing mentoring, extended mentoring that we'll be adding on to our program. So as kids finish graduating from Character GPS, we'll continue then another 6 months of group mentoring to help the kids stay on track. And specifically with the kids that we're working with in the detention center, we're really hoping that this will help continue to provide a support for them to stay on track before they get back into trouble. So
Congratulations on picking up that funding.
thank you.
Very nice. And you said post-graduation for 6 months, so a form of aftercare?
No.
I mean, aftercare mentoring.
Extended.
Extended, okay.
mentor, yeah.
Thank you.
We're not a daycare.
No.
As far as the detention facility, do you have any updates since construction commenced? How are we doing?
No, at this particular point, I do not have an estimated date for groundbreaking. I know that internally, we are making some transition as far as moving in items, equipment out of the facility that will be demolished and repurposing them and creating a new lab in another location in Hillsborough County. But at this point, we're still receiving estimates and quotes from providers to do all that internal legwork prior to the demolish.
So for the detention facility, when we had our groundbreaking with the secretary a couple months ago, that was a couple months ago, I think, was that not the start of substantive construction on the project, or was that just to initiate the contract with the company, the construction company?
Mr. Parkinson, I honestly do not have answers for you.
And I haven't driven down Columbus in a couple months, so I don't know.
No, as of right now, it is still there. I know the secretary, as recently as a few weeks ago, is really advocating for the push for us to remove all DJJ property from that one site and that one building that will be gone.
Well, we're very excited about the new facility, and I think all of us would like to be there when we have the formal grand opening.
Absolutely. Let's move on, if we shall, to delinquency citation for updates.
Good morning. I'm Judy Royston for Juvenile Diversion. Last time we were here, there was a request for zip codes of youth that committed civil citations. I have a handout here that we do a monthly report. It includes the months, the previous year, referrals by law enforcement agency, the offense, victims, gender, race, ethnicity, age, and zip code for the community offenses and for the schools. So that was one of the requests. I don't know if anybody has any questions about the report, but if you look at it for the month of April 2025, we processed 65 pre-arrest delinquency citations. 36 were from the community and 29 were from the schools. The dominant charge was battery with 28 and battery DV with 15. And then if you look at April of 2024, we had 57 pre-arrest delinquency citations processed. Any questions about the report or citations?
Director Royston, at our last meeting, we noticed that there was there weren't any citations listed for District 1, Sheriff's Office District 1. On this report, now we have 5.
Yes, sir.
I know you were going to look into it to see if it was just a reporting error in the last report. Did you have a chance to do that?
I did not. I apologize. I will get back with you on that.
Again, just curious, Sheriff's Office District 1 typically is fertile ground for citations for us. And it was an outlier in our data.
Thank you, Ms. Royston. I will be doing a PowerPoint presentation regarding data as it reflects on our pre-arrest delinquency citation. I'm going to go use the...
Okay. Please do so.
Yeah, I did. My assistant chief is not here to help me out.
Some of us love data. Some of us will have to struggle to stay awake for the next 5 minutes.
So previously, when we were discussing the formations of our subcommittees and specifically our pre-arrest delinquency citation data-driven decision-making, some items were poised by the group as far as can you do a deeper dive and get us more information. So as such, I'm going to go ahead and walk through this with you. Oopsie. And this information was provided by our department's Office of Systems Innovation to gather the data that was requested. This is on our our profile public dashboard. It's from year to date. It's going to focus on the top 12 highest volume zip codes using the youth home address for juvenile arrests in Hillsborough County from July 2023 through June 2024. Youth under the care of DCF are omitted from this view, and the reasoning is that the addresses change accordingly. And within the department's juvenile justice system, when they're in foster care, traditionally the office, the address of the youth that's listed in juvenile justice is the office of the Department of Children and Families in the county that the child is located in, jurisdiction of DCF. So this is data overview from 2023, 2024. It provides the top zip codes for juvenile arrest. So we're not really going into pre-arrest delinquency citation, but we're looking at a whole of what our youth involved with the department is. And as you can see at the top is burglary, batteries, aggravated assault and batteries, a violation of probations. Those are considered technical violations presented by the juvenile probation officer to the court. Weapons and firearms is 125. So as you go down, you'll see there, and then to the right, you see the breakdown, gender, male and female, the percentages there, in addition to race and ethnicity, which is 77% black youth, 11% Hispanic youth, and 12% white youth. And you can see the highest volume zip codes here, and that's the 12 highest volume zip codes. A copy of this PowerPoint presentation is in everybody's packet today, and after the conclusion of the meeting, this will be forwarded out to the public as a whole. So here's our Hillsborough County trend overview. Like the state as a whole, referrals dropped dramatically during the pandemic, but have climbed in recent years. However, both statewide and in Hillsborough County, year-to-date numbers show a slight decrease in referrals during the first 9 months of the current fiscal year. In Hillsborough County, felonies in particular have decreased year-to-date at 23% fewer than the same 9-month period last fiscal year. And here's again another overview as far as arresting agencies for youth that are charged with offenses. And it puts the numbers there. Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, 2021. Tampa Police Department, 1,294. NA Circuit 13,433. What that means is those are technical violations filed by the probation officers and or law enforcement violations of supervision and or what's referred to as prosecution previously deferred cases. And you'll see there it provides all the numbers. And again, the burglary, 681. Assault and batteries, that 594. Those are those misdemeanor. Those are, many of them are those DV cases. And then naturally, the violent assault and battery cases, 421, looping in a third. And that concludes the presentation. But I'll stand up here because I think that you all may have some questions.
Are there any questions for Chief Hammersley?
Thank you.
Okay, our next agenda item is the Student Achievement Subcommittee. Ms. Dorian, would you like to talk about your subcommittee?
I have a very short update. So we did meet for the first time on April 25th. We had about 10 people present. Everybody introduced themselves and talked about their roles and what they would bring to the committee. And we are looking forward to our next meeting to kind of organize a lot of the processes we have in place already and how we can improve them using some of the data that's coming out. Many of the things that came out in the memo from DJJ saying best practices about keeping kids in school and student achievement, we already have those systems in place, but a lot of people, I don't know what this one's doing, this one doesn't know what that one's doing, so coming together, getting all on the same page and improving the systems we're currently doing.
Outstanding. Thank you for that update. The next item.
Excuse me, we did skip an item. If you don't mind, if we can go back to the report from Hillsborough County Children's Services, please.
Oh, my goodness.
Thank you.
Yes. I'm so sorry, Sarah. Ms. Grimming.
No problem, but I'm so glad we have such a great secretary. So I don't have a. This is why you are in that position. You are so good at it. So good morning again, everyone. I don't have a lot this morning. We currently have 11 kids in our care. 4 of them are truancy court ordered. Our last truancy court is Monday for this school year. We have 3 SINS kids and 4 DV kids, and unfortunately in the last 30 days we have seen a significant increase in the number of DV kids coming in. So we are looking at what is going on right now with how those kids are coming to us, whether it's from civil citation or detention, and what's going on in families. So outside of that, we are currently recruiting for a nurse. So if you know any nurses or retired nurses that want to come back to nursing, please send them to the Hillsborough County job boards because we are looking very urgently to fill that position. That's all I have.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I think we also skipped over, our pre-arrest delinquency citation data decision-making subcommittee updates. Judy, can you provide that? Well, I provided it as far as data to provide to the board, but I know the subcommittee met a few weeks ago, and there was some discussion with the subcommittee, and I don't believe we received that.
So the committee, originally this started in 2023 when we started the work on this. With the transfer of responsibilities to the DJJ for the Community Advisory Board, the committee was reconvened with the same agencies. So we met on May 2nd, and what we have been looking at over the past couple years, in December 2021 to November 2022, our utilization rate was 66% for civil citation. December 22 to 23, it was 64%, and December 23 to November 24, it was 62%. And we've looked at neighboring counties, and we've talked about the Pinellas County model and the Polk County model, where their utilization rate in Pinellas County is 90%, and Polk County it's 80%. And one of the reasons is that they allow civil citations to come through their juvenile assessment centers. So the committee has reviewed specific civil citation utilization. We've explored reasons for non-issuance. We've looked at formatting issues with the ECRA. We've looked at best practices in neighborhood jurisdictions. And we've looked at the review of the missed opportunity reports and successful models in our neighboring counties. On May, the committee met May 2nd, and we approved a motion to move forward to the Community Advisory Board, the following recommendations. So the recommendations coming from the committee were, number one, that we adopt the Pinellas Polk model. We should adopt a model where all eligible youth are consistently issued pre-arrest delinquency citations, and this could single-handedly significantly improve the county's utilization rate to match our regional peers. We also looked at standardized law enforcement procedures. All law enforcement agencies were to update their SOPs to reflect the MOU dated June 1st, 2021. The committee looked at ongoing training and education with new law enforcement officers coming in, new stakeholders. We want to provide continuous education for law enforcement on the updated MOU and their respective SOPs to ensure consistent application. And then document of non-issuance justifications. When the civil citation is not being issued, the criminal report affidavit must clearly document the reasons why, and that was one of the things that was worked on by the committee. We also looked at regular review of our missed opportunities reports. DJJ does a monthly report, along with all law enforcement agencies submit a quarterly report. So it's just agencies should consistently review them to see what we're missing. Is there a specific charge that is more dominant than others? As we talked about DV, that's always been an issue. Mm-hmm. And then we looked at the issue of citations when youth are temporarily unavailable. If a youth is not immediately available and not present at the time of the incident, sometimes the case goes to the state attorney's office as a direct file. I know we've had conversations with the state attorney's office that maybe we could pull those cases out that meet civil citation criteria instead of forwarding them to the clerk's office where they get a case number. So all these recommendations were a comprehensive strategy to increase civil citation. By refining these procedures, I think that we can get our new utilization numbers up. But I think as we look through this whole thing, until the most important thing, and I think we're going to remain in that 60-70% range, because there's always going to be certain kids that law enforcement runs into that they don't think should be eligible for a civil citation. There's going to be DVs where they are going to go to the JAC. So I think the most important thing, until we look into opening up our juvenile assessment center to civil citations, we're not going to get to the 90% or the 80% range. I also looked at the department's research page on civil citations, and all the counties that are in that 80 or 90% range have a JAC that allows civil citations. Miami's at 90%. I think Jacksonville was the other one. But, you know, the big counties that have civil citations coming into the JAC, that's where you're going to get your 80 or 90%. So those were our recommendations that we put forward to the Community Advisory Board, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Rob, do you have a question?
I don't have a question. I just wanted to once again thank Director Royston for all of her work on this. This has not been something that she called together over one night. This has been 2 years of diligent work, going through the data, meeting with stakeholders, conducting meetings, interacting with our contiguous counties to find out why they're being so successful. A lot of work went into this, and I, again, wanted to voice my appreciation. At this juncture, I feel comfortable making a motion that we recommend that stakeholders adopt this model based on your report and recommendations. Now, their recommendations, we can't compel elected officials or other units of government to do things, but basically, these are best practices, and we recommend the following of best practices.
And I just want to add, I want to thank all the community stakeholders, everybody, law enforcement. Thank you for sticking with me through this whole thing. Thank you, Sarah, Travis, the PD's office. So it was 2 years, and I really appreciate everybody's work on it.
And I did have a question, Ms. Royston. As far as when we're talking about the JAC to allow civil citations, since we have newer folks part of the board now, are we talking about law enforcement taking the youth to the JAC for civil citations? Or are we talking about the use of not fingerprinting and putting them into the database?
So we are going to get a number of youth that come through the JAC that are eligible for civil citation that for some reason were not issued up. Sorry. That were eligible for civil citation, but for some reason, and mostly we can look at DVs, could not return the youth to the home. Law enforcement is tied up. If you go from Waimama to Lake Mag, I mean, that's a long distance. So there is a way, and the Pinellas and the Polk model use their live scan machine. They don't input the fingerprints. So it would be, and it wouldn't be every youth. We could still do the kids in the community get civil citations, but the ones that are brought to the JAC to avoid getting a record, those kids that are eligible, using the Pinellas Polk model to pull those charges out and not forward the fingerprints.
Thank you for clarification. So the motion, the discussion right now is the motion to, I'm sorry, I was writing a lot of things down as we were going through this.
Recommend
the
the
adoption
adoption
of
of
the
recommendations listed in Director Royston's report.
Motion adopted.
Do you want to do a vote, so in case
Oh.
someone needs to
Thank you,
object?
sir.
Yes.
Thank you. So
Political
motion,
reasons, because their
motion
boss is
submitted,
watching.
motion accepted. Can we
All
do
in
a favor?
Aye. Anyone specifically opposed?
Thank you, sir. And our last subcommittee is the Julian M. Holt Service Excellence Award. The subcommittee chair, Conchita Canty Jones, is not able to be here today. I believe, Mr. Parkinson, you had an opportunity to participate.
I did. Ms. Canty Jones did schedule and hold a meeting of that group. The group worked on updating the forms and format for this year's award, and I believe she has a quasi-final product. I haven't reviewed the final product, but I had made some recommendations on the draft. I'll take a look at it today or Monday, just to do a final check, and then we'll send it out to all the stakeholders. And again, the Julianne M. Holt Service Excellence Award is an award named after our former public defender, where we try and recognize a individual in the juvenile justice system that goes above and beyond to serve the youth in the juvenile justice system. It could be somebody in the juvenile DJJ, it could be somebody in the nonprofit sector, it could be someone in a government services sector. We've had winners in past years across all sectors. So start thinking about somebody in your offices or somebody that you interact that goes above and beyond to serve these kids, and please consider making a nomination once the form goes out. And again, I believe that our plan is to actually issue the award in November
Correct.
of this year. So, very exciting. Our stakeholders in the juvenile justice system often don't get recognized for all of the hard work that they do, so.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Parkinson. Does anybody have any questions about any of the subcommittees that we've discussed today? All right, well, we're going to move on then to our new business, our new focus area of introduction. Previously, we've discussed about innovation zones. We have not yet defined an actual zone topic that we would like to, as the board would like to utilize. There's been discussions about naturally firearm prevention being one of the primary ones, I believe our discussions is. Mentoring is the second one, I believe, and I'm trying to remember if there's a
Civil citation.
civil pre-arrest delinquency citation. And I think that was it at this point. So we've had dialogue at our executive board meeting, but nothing of just more than just dialogue, just taking the information that we are receiving from the board. So I'm a little perplexed, and please forgive me on that as far as moving forward on that. Should we be taking any more?
So my
Suggestions?
recommendation, I mean, we haven't voted yet.
No, we haven't, I mean.
So
it's
at this
open.
juncture, I think everyone knows what the innovation zones are or could be. I think you've gotten a number of suggestions on what we might pick from. I think we should put on our next meeting agenda all of the recommendations that were put on there in terms of our innovation zone, and then vote on our priority.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
And along with that, have you received any feedback from the other circuits on their progress on this particular task?
No, I haven't. I have access to view any information that they're uploading to the state's, the department SharePoint, where we're putting our great information from all of our CABs in there, but I haven't had it, there's really minimal put in this particular point. I think all the circuit advisory boards are working on, creating their subcommittees, having their subcommittees take place before they're moving on to the deeper dive of innovation zones.
And I'm curious, just because there's significant similarities in our system in Pinellas, Circuit 6, if we can reach out to them and find out where they're at, what they're doing, and, we're already trying to replicate the Pinellas and Polk model for a civil citation. If they've got a good idea, I'm not opposed to borrowing it. But either way, I think we need to put up some options at the next meeting, vote on it, and then start moving in that direction.
Excuse me, Madam Chair. One of the things that the Executive Committee did discuss was creating a drug awareness task force as an innovation zone. So I do want to make that, I did want to remind you
Thank you.
of that piece as well.
And thank you, Mr. Parkinson. And I will do my due diligence by reaching out to some of our other circuits that may be already moving forward in that direction or are still in contemplation as far as the board.
No, I think that's great, and thank you, Madam Secretary, for reminding us of that item that I missed. And I believe Deputy Kreger will also be talking a little bit about a potential option later on in the meeting. And then, of course, we also have the Hillsborough County Anti-Drug Alliance that does some things in this environment as well that we might be able to dovetail on.
Absolutely. Item number B, under new business, discussion of data and related questions. Well, previously I provided data. Is there any requests for any further data for perhaps the next Circuit Advisory Board that will be held in August? I could open it up at this particular point to where I can track that and send the request. It takes a bit of time for the department to gather that information, that data, but as long as we have advance notice, we're able to adequately provide that information.
At this juncture, I feel like the data that you provided, especially for civil citation, has been the data that we need to move forward. So I don't think we need anything else in that regard. But I do ask that you remain available. Right now, court administration is working on tweaking the juvenile mental health court model to address additional funding sources, and they might need data for their write-up and narrative for that process. So if you could just be mindful of that and be available for either Ms. Roysden, Ms. Gina Justice, or Angie Smith, if they reach out to you for some raw data on that. And this would be specific to the kids that go through juvenile mental health court.
Absolutely, absolutely. And thank you for sharing that, so I can put that on my radar. With that being said, we're moving on to our presentation. We have a presentation today by BAYS, which is Bay Area Youth Services, and a presentation on family functioning therapy. And if the presenters would like to approach the podium. And a copy of this presentation is in your packets along with the brochure.
And before you get started, I just want to thank HTV for their efforts to get this presentation up, which were substantive. Thank you.
Ladies, would you like to introduce yourselves?
I'm Christina. Hi, good morning. My name is Mila. We're both functional family therapists with Bay Area Youth Services.
You can do next slide. Okay. All right, so the functional family therapy is a short-term, high-quality intervention program with an average of 12 to 14 sessions over 3 to 5 months. FFT works best for youth aged 10 to 18 who have been referred for behavior or emotional problems by the juvenile justice system, schools, child welfare, or mental health professionals. The services are typically conducted in the home setting, but we do offer office or meeting in the community. We really try to work with the families and meet them where they are. FFT is a strength-based model built on a foundation of acceptance and respect. At its core is a focus on assessment and intervention to address risk factors, risk and protective factors within and outside the family that impact the adolescents. FFT consists of 5 major components, and that's engagement, motivation, relational assessment, behavior change, and generalization. Each of these components has its own goals, focus, and intervention strategies. You can do the next slide. So the FF team consists of the program director. We typically have a lead therapist. And most counties have 2 to 3 FFT therapists. Hillsborough, however, does have 4 due to the size. We also have a case aide. What's the last one? We don't have that one. No, that one's just in Orlando. You can do the next slide. So when it comes to some of the risk factors that we deal with when it's regarding the parents is inconsistent parenting, violence or abuse, parental mood and anxiety disorders, parental substance abuse, parental high conflict and low resolution, inflexibility in parenting, and external system pressures on parents like economic status. Next slide.
Thank you. And continuing with the presentation, one thing that I really wanted to also highlight is that Perhaps you guys already know the JDA program that it's also from BASE and have worked with them, but FFT is definitely a big, it's a big part of how we approach the families that are struggling with different matters. Christina here, she mentioned that we work with behavioral, emotional problems, any youth that's involved in the juvenile system or child welfare. Families are struggling when they get to us. And it's important that we also understand that our main focus is to reduce those risk factors. So we have, for the youth, we work with mood disorders or mental health in general. However, it's important that we understand that the youth has to be stabilized enough to participate in our program. We also have the out-of-home placement history. We have runaway behavior. And it's also important to highlight that we need that youth to be stabilized enough at home to be participative of this program, because some situations we can handle, but out of our hands, let's say, if the youth continues to run away consistently and chronically, we also look for support for other programs that can help us keep the family in the home, because that's where it's our main setting. Truancy, running away, yes, it's the same thing. And the parenting or pregnant teens, that has been a challenge. However, we do try to involve every party that's involved in the situation. Ideally, it's everybody that's in the home, but let's say that in a pregnant teen situation, we have to bring the other parent that maybe doesn't live in the home. They need to come and also be part of the program, because they are all key parts in all the situation that the family is involved with.
So could I clarify, so that includes then co-parenting when there's divorce where kids are living in multiple homes, that you work with them as a unit?
Yeah, exactly. We try our best to make them come together.
Yeah.
However, we also, being honest, we also face the situation where a parent is like all hands on, we want this to work, and then we also have another parent that doesn't want to participate. We make some accommodations for those situations, because sometimes the parents can be together in the same room. So we try to, let's say, okay, we can have one parent in person, and the other parent can be maybe via telehealth, but we need one parent and the youth together. So I'm not sure if that addresses your question. Yeah. Okay. Next slide. A little bit about of our inclusion criteria. We serve youth that are between 10 to 18-year-old. However, with the 18 years old, they are, just like the 11-year-old or the 10-year-old, they need to provide a consent for treatment. But the 18-year-old has to be in the home, has to come together with the parents if they are the ones that are having issues with, and they also have the right to decline services if they don't want to participate. Our families have to be in our community, so they have to be within Hillsborough County limits. Family has to be available. We offer services from Monday to Friday. Fortunately, not Saturdays or Sundays. Sometimes the youth might be returning to the family because they have been in residential services, they have been out of placement, they have been living with an aunt and uncle because the family couldn't handle the issues at home, but they need to come back. Like, we want to keep the family together. And let's say that we have a youth that's out of home, we can work with that, but we are also working with planning the day that that youth is gonna come back home. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. The next one, please. Part of our exclusionary criteria, anybody that's under 10 years old, might not be able to participate, because one thing about FFT is that we work with really high intense skills that the youth needs to be able to understand to fully incorporate in the day-by-day basis and daily activities. youth that have no psychosocial systems. We also exclude any youth that's scheduled to be sent away to the family. Sometimes it has happened that most of the family is here, but maybe dad lives out of state and they're planning to be sent there. We cannot really include this youth in our program. Sexual offenders, youth with current acute psychosis. Like we said before, we need the youth to be stabilized enough to participate. Same situation with psychiatric illnesses. The next one. And well, we have multiple service areas along Florida. We have BFC in Orlando, Jacksonville, Gainesville, May 1 right here in Hillsborough, but we're all over Florida serving the community. So I think that's the last one. So if you guys have any questions.
Hey, how do y'all take referrals? Like, how does one refer a child to your program?
Yeah, there are multiple ways that the youth can be referred to us. So we receive referrals from schools, even self-refer situations. We put some brochures over there where our website is, because there's a little tab in there where you can submit a referral. But we also brought some business cards, so the email is in there, is Hillsborough BFC referrals. So just send the referral there, we process it, we do the screening, to see if it's eligible or not, and we proceed like that.
And how many kids can y'all have on your caseload at any time, like in Hillsborough County?
So right now, each therapist has a full caseload of 12 families, because we see between 3 to 5 months for them to complete the process, so.
It's a short-term program, so
Yeah.
we have a wait list, so once one person phases out, we can phase the next one in.
How long is the wait list?
Well, right now, I can't really provide estimated time, but once we're full staff, the longest it can be, it's probably a month.
So a question, if there's a family in Circuit 10, like Polk County and so on, is there any way for them to be able to use your services?
Not with us,
Not
not with
right
Hillsborough
now.
County, yeah.
Because we travel mostly to the home, so we try to stay within Hillsborough County.
But I mean, any of these other service areas, is there any, like Orlando, do they work outside Orange County, or are they
the
tied
county that
specifically
they're
to the
in.
county? Okay.
Just within the county. Yes.
I had the privilege of sitting through a presentation on FFT at the Restoring Hope Conference a couple of years ago, and I was really impressed with some of the longitudinal outcomes that they shared for the youth. But one of the challenges, even back then, was follow-on services after you discontinue your services. So my question to you is, how are you guys doing with linking families to follow-along behavioral health services and other services after your services are concluded?
Right. So Christina here mentioned that we have 3 different phases in our program. So towards the end of that model, we have the last phase that is called generalization. So in that phase, what we're trying to do is, like you mentioned, link the family with additional resources that we can see the family engaging with while they're still under our umbrella, if that makes sense. And then from there, unfortunately, FFT doesn't have case management. So let's say that the family has a fallout, or they are struggling again. They can come back to FFT if the issue is happening within the next 60 days, once they have been discharged from our program. So we do something that's called the booster sessions. So it's a little bit more intense because we're addressing, okay, you guys were doing well, you guys were in a good place, but something happened. And we don't know how to come back to our normal, regular self, so we provide that.
And what about linkages and referrals to follow-along agencies like Success for Kids and Families / Crisis Center, or Chrysalis, or any of the organizations that are within that umbrella?
Yeah, so we don't just do service, like resources at the end in generalization, we do them as they come up as well. So if we see in the beginning that a youth can really benefit from like individual services, then we're gonna go ahead and give the family those resources to go ahead and connect them to those different services.
Perfect, thank you.
And where would we find success measures, you know, maybe measuring like before and then after your services, what gains have been made?
So one thing with FFT, it is a nationally recognized model. So we have to meet with a national consultant every week to make sure that we're following the model the way that it should be, which makes sure that we're practicing the skills as they're intended to make sure that, you know, we are doing our part to meet those families' needs and the criteria that is FFT, because it is a very particular model.
Yeah. Also, our program director, they have to meet consistently with our stakeholders, providing all of their reports, like how many families have been successful, what is unsuccessful looking like for them. So we provide those reports directly to the referral parties as well.
Yeah, and we also do assessments at the beginning and the end of the program to compare them to see what changes we have seen in the family.
Thank you very much for your
Oh,
presentation
thank you.
today. And as stated earlier, brochures are on the table to the side. Thank you. Item number D for new business, this is status of CS Senate Bill 1344. And Mr. Parkinson, I don't recall that I brought a copy of that. the
I didn't bring a
proposed.
copy. We did discuss it at the last meeting. If you recall, this is the one that was making some substantive changes to Chapter 984, which covers children in need, family in need, or SINSFINs. Last time I checked, it was ordered, enrolled, and engrossed, so that means it passed and was being sent to the governor's office. And it's a fairly lengthy bill, but in summary, the bill amends Chapter 984, renaming it to Children and Families in Need of Services, Prevention and Intervention for School Truancy and Ungovernable and Runaway Children. That's a mouthful. It encompasses or emphasizes the need for judicial and non-judicial procedures to address status offenses like truancy and runaway behavior. It also introduces provisions for early truancy intervention that require school boards to engage the court system to address attendance issues. The bill also mandates various departments to post an information guide on juvenile procedures on their website and includes significant amendments such as the appointment of counsel for children in certain circumstances, the establishment of voluntary family services, and the requirement for a range of services to be available to families in need. Now, one of the issues that we've talked about in the past is how different SINSFINs is across the state in the various ways it's implemented. We've been pretty lucky here in that our SINSFINs provider is so close to the county, being a county department and so involved in this group, but my understanding is that is not the case across the state. So this kind of manualizes everything across the state.
Consistency.
And then, of course, that more of a focus on those school issues, those truancy issues than in the past. And I don't know if you guys want to chime in on this, because this is really in your ball court. You've been monitoring it as I have, but you know what the real repercussions might be for us here in Hillsborough County, if any.
Sure, and I'll just briefly mention, we are in the process of looking at our new contract with the Florida Network that will be, again, July 1st, and so our department has just received the draft version of that contract. So what we can speak specifically on that will change for us is our, we do know that our FIRAC services, which were specifically for kids on prevention, are no longer being provided by this contract. And that's really affects kids getting additional community counseling that are in the probation space. And our intensive case management services will not be continued in this contract starting July 1st. Outside of that, the specifics are still things that we're navigating, but we do know those services are the ones that are going to be no longer continued. That will have no impact on our SINSFINs court-ordered youth. So I do want to make sure that everyone is aware that that program will continue.
And I guess the next question is for Antina and Travis. The bill kind of mixes up some of the processes for SINSFINs, or at least manualizes it, and creates a consistent model across the state. Have you guys had a chance to look at that and opine on what impact it might have for us here?
I was going to say, with respect to the state attorney's office, no, we haven't yet.
Okay.
If I may make a suggestion, maybe at our next meeting, we could have an overview of how this is going to impact our community, particularly since our next meeting will be right at the start of the school season, so.
Right, and my assumption is the governor will sign it, but if he doesn't, then it's all for naught, so.
Thank you. Duly noted. Okay, so next is our public comments, and we do have a public comment today. As a reminder, all public comments are to be completed within time frame of 3 minutes. And today we have Stephanie Krager, who is here to present information regarding substance abuse in youth.
Hello, good morning. My name is Stephanie Krager. I was a law enforcement officer for Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office for almost 30 years. So I am currently a representative of Phoenix, South Florida. I am a law enforcement liaison for that organization. And we were discussing at the local planning committee, which is just a group that talks about local children's issues that revolve around substance use and mental health. Well, starting the mental health unit and the homeless unit for the sheriff's office, I realized that I had no knowledge of children's services for substance use. And as I talked more about the different programming for children related to substance use, I didn't know anything. So we discussed at the local planning team that we would work together to do a children adolescent substance use forum. The date is tentatively set for August 27th. Phoenix House is doing it in partnership with Crisis Center of Tampa Bay, a Success for Kids and Families, and Hillsborough County Children's Services. So our focus is going to get the Hillsborough County programs that focus specifically on primary substance use for children and have them present at this program. It's going to be for professionals, so we're going to invite the school folks, law enforcement, DCF, anyone that wants to have more knowledge on that subject. Our objective is basically to highlight those issues in substance use for children and where they can go for that treatment. We plan on having a father come and speak and talk. He is a physician in an emergency room that wants to discuss his son that got addicted to Delta 8 and Delta 9. So the discussion on how a certain program in Hillsborough County assisted his son, which was really peer-led. You know, he had other peers in that same group. It was such an inspiring story that we definitely want to get that out. So I will send the information to Mr. Parkinson, and hopefully you'll send some of your folks to attend. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, here we go. I do have something that I did want to mention, and this is as far as our CAB as a whole, some reminders for the CAB members that each CAB member is needed to be present in order to have quorum. We appreciate representatives that may fill in for the appointed member. However, that will not count towards quorum. Likewise, we wanted to advise that ideally all of our board members should participate in at least one subcommittee meeting, being part of a subcommittee. I understand that we've got several going on, and this is ongoing for the next several years, et cetera. So if you're not part of a committee that's currently in place, please consider any new subcommittees that come up that you have not previously been part of, to where you can become a member of that committee. And that is all I have to say regarding that. Our next CAB meeting is August 15th, 2025, in this current location at 10 a.m. And with that being said.
One more announcement?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Jeff Kane, Character GPS, we're offering again our free Character GPS summer camps as an open enrollment. We do this specifically for a lot of at-risk kids that can't afford summer camps, where they can come and have 4 days to intensively learn our whole program that we normally offer during the course of a semester when we're at a school or other facility. So it's a free camp. Our June camp is already full, but we still have room in our July 7th through 10th and August 4th through 7th camps. So again, if you pass that on, we'd love to help some of the kids that otherwise might be just sitting at home and playing computer games or ending up in our system here. So we'd love to help equip them and build their confidence to pursue their life and their dreams.
Well, thank you, Mr. Kane. Can you reiterate the dates for July and August?
Yeah, July is 7th through 10th, and August is 4th through the 7th. And we also provide a free lunch. So we're really trying to make it affordable for those at-risk kids that need a lot of help. Thank you very much.
And how do we make that referral?
Contact us.
Would you like that contact information in the minutes?
Sure. At Jeffrey, Jeffrey, at charactergps.org, or phone number 813-966-9977.
Overestimate my ability.
Oh.
Character GPS and the phone number, please.
813-966-9977. Thank you.
Anything else, Robert?
I move that we adjourn.
We are adjourned. Thank you all for your participation today.